since I know you cover a lot of strange creatures, monsters, things of that sort. Jeff, could you pass me my water,
Sure.
please?
Oh, I think I've heard about this one.
Have you?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
yeah,
a drop left.
Yeah. This
yeah,
one's pretty cool.
yeah. I have heard this one. Yeah, I haven't seen this exact article, but yeah, there. I got to do a sea serpent, swamp serpent video
Yes.
sometime because they
Oh
have
yeah.
like dog heads and horse heads and all these different. There's so many different kinds. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, please jump in.
Sure. So, Florida monster slain. An enormous reptile. I think that's reptile, yeah. More like the mythical dragon than a land serpent has been killed by a hunter in the lower Everglades. For 100 years, it has not only been a tradition among the Seminole Indians who inhabited the borders of Lake Okeechobee, but it is stated as fact within the knowledge of some of the Indians now living that an immense serpent made its home in the Everglades and has carried off at least 2 Indians. And just, real quick note here. I clipped off the date. Oh wait, no, this is 1902. Okay, so March 6th, 1902.
Nice.
So the why I'm saying that is these people know what a
Oh yeah, of course.
they
I
know what
you
an
mean.
alligator is.
Of course.
They know what a 10-foot rattlesnake is. They know what a runaway. I don't know if they have seen a python or an anaconda, but they know what snakes are. These people
Oh yeah.
aren't. This isn't like a first European landing and like, oh my god, look at that.
Yeah, of course.
This is
Yeah, I
just
mean, and you've shared a lot about the giant alligators of Florida
oh
and
yeah.
you remember that article I shared with you about that giant alligator found in New Jersey with the Arabic coins found below it. So I
Yeah.
mean, and like we've been saying too, Florida was America. America was called Florida, and
Yes, sir.
the peninsular Florida was called Cape Florida, or
Oh yeah.
peninsular Florida, or whatever it was.
Now
And
you're really gonna like this one
yeah,
because of the
then I'll shut up.
tie-in. No.
The Mayan.
No, go on. Yeah.
Oh, it's just crazy. And I've been saying so long that the whole world was, and this goes back to what we've been saying, for anyone that's kind of new to me in Longo's conversations, we've been saying that probably before the last major ice event, the whole world was a similar weather, tropical for the most part. And that alligators, the 30-foot alligators of peninsular Florida extended all the way up into Canada. And, you find coral in Alaska everywhere, all over, Nova Scotia and so on. Tropical coral. Obviously there's cold water coral, but tropical coral is the key part there. And that, the Gulf of Mexico was notorious for growing really, really large animals of all kinds. Some of the best fishing was there. And, even articles from the 1700s. They knew what a serpent was, and they knew the difference between an alligator and a serpent and all these things. And I have some cool ones from the 1700s where 50 feet of the serpent is out of the water, so they're estimating for that much of it to be exposed that it was probably 200 feet long.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways,
Crazy.
I'm talking over you, so yeah, keep going.
No worries. But what I was gonna say is obviously from the illustration, this thing had Chinese dragon-esque whiskers.
Yeah,
Telltale Chinese dragon.
I love it.
type.
Yeah, because in some of the older ones they call them like catfish heads.
Right.
The whiskers of a catfish look very much like the dragon-esque Chinese drawings. And yeah, first thing I noticed was that. That's when you know this thing is in the swamp, in the Everglades, because they have to have those feelers.
Oh, yeah, slow-moving water. Slow-moving water is a telling sign of those whisker-type things.
Yeah,
Not
I love
always,
catfish.
but usually. So, Recently, Buster Farrell, or Farrell, one of the boldest and most noted hunters in the Okeechobee, who for 20 years has made the border of the lake and the Everglades his home, on one of his periodical expeditions into one of those lonesome wilds, noted that when he supposed to be the path noted that what he supposed to be the pathway of an immense gator. For several days he visited the locality for the purpose of killing the saurian, like saurian,
That's a key
um,
word. And with
yes,
all the dinosaur stuff I
dinosaur,
talk about,
yep,
this is where it gets obfuscated and the dinosaur narrative comes from. They were
right,
all saurians. They were all lizardy snakes. They weren't these weird shaped dinosaurs we see in,
hmm,
fantasy of today. They were
right.
similar in ways, but very different in others.
No, they were plasma inhabiting animals. You can say what lives. You know, you can list off a million species that live in the dirt. You can
Hmm.
list off a million species that live in the water. You can list off a million species that live in the air. Well, that's three of the elements.
Hmm.
What inhabits the fire? What
Yeah.
inhabits the lightning? So this is a realm humanity only has glimpses into every so often. So what at times is physical passes into the realm of imagination.
Yeah.
You could say it's an astrological thing, but
Yeah.
it's not as simple as all these things getting killed out, extinct. They did go extinct in the literal sense, but their memory, blah blah blah. Let's continue reading.
Yeah. I love the plasma idea, though. Yeah, I agree. Because there's been so much talk about that. The plasma, the dragons were plasma
Hmm.
serpents or
Yeah,
electrical serpents.
it's not so much fire breathing, or as it might be, fire devouring,
Hmm.
light consuming, and producing, of course. But
Yeah.
so for several days, he visited the locality for the purpose of killing the saurian. You can think Sauron from Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
There's a Saturnian component to that word, Sauron, Saturn, Saurian. And sorry, if you're sorry, that's a very Saturn word. I'm sad, I'm sorry, you know. You,
Hmm.
you, you get it. But
Melancholy. Yeah.
was unsuccessful in finding him. He studied some plant to outwit it. A large cypress stood near its pathway, and he concluded the was best thing for him to do would be to climb this tree and take a stand for his quote gatorship. He accordingly prepared himself and took a position in the tree. For 2 days he stood on watch with his rifle ready, but without the desired success. On the third day, before he had been on his perch an hour, he was almost paralyzed by what looked to him like an immense serpent gliding along the supposed alligator track. He estimated it to be anywhere from 20 to 30 feet long and fully 10 to 12 inches in diameter, where the head joined the body, and as large around as a barrel 10 feet farther back. Wow. The snake stopped within easy reach of his gun and raised its head to take a precautionary view of his surroundings. As it did, Farrell opened fire on it, shooting at its head. Taken by surprise, the serpent dashed into the marsh at railroad speed, while Farrell kept a fire on it until he had emptied the magazine of his rifle, but failed to stop it. Almost 4 days afterward, he ventured back into the neighborhood to see how things were, and about a mile from where he first saw the snake, he saw a large flock of buzzards. He went to see what they were after, and there he found the creature dead, and its body so badly torn by the buzzards that it was impossible to save the skin. He, however, secured its head. It is truly a frightful looking object, fully 10 inches from jaw to jaw, with ugly, razor-like teeth. He described the animal as a dark color on the back, with dingy white beneath, and with feelers around its mouth, similar to a catfish. He has now gone back into the swamp with the intention of securing the skeleton and bringing it back, after which he will send it to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, of course. Scientists who have investigated the matter are convinced that the animal is not a land serpent. The latest society fad among the oh no, that's the next article. Well, there you go. Florida monster slain. Sent to the Smithsonian, never heard from again.
Yep. Yeah, we've heard that a million times, haven't we?
Yep.
Yeah, that just reminds me of one I shared about Washington. That's like eerily similar. The natives were scared of a lake. Yeah, that's great. I mean, so much of the Everglades were a mysterious place, and when you got 30-foot alligators, you imagine how much larger everything else has to be, just to survive in a place like that. Crazy.
Yeah, as if there weren't enough things to make swimming in Florida scary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since that was just so reminiscent of one that I shared a long time ago, I'll just share this one that's almost identical, but on the other side of the U.S. If that sounds good to you.
Fuck yeah, throw it out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go far back, and for anyone that hasn't seen any of my Anomalous America episodes, I talk about large saurians in almost every episode, and I'm not sure if I got into it in my last in New Mexico. I think I did. I talked about a 115-foot lizard. And then in Colorado, there was a good one. It was a 100-plus-foot lizard that had a 10-foot animal in its stomach. And inside of its stomach, it had giant seeds or pine cones, huge. So we're talking really big trees, too, It was like a double decker, this article, because it was talking about giant seeds, giant pine cones, and huge lizards.
Thing was eating pine cones like they were granola.
Yeah. And it was like, and in the same article, they found petrified coconuts that were like, more than three times as big. And when he broke it open, it was all quartz inside.
Goddamn. Ooh,
So
I got some.
How cool would that be to find?
Oh yeah.
And he said you
You're
could
gonna
still
love.
see. We got some stuff along those lines to share too.
I was just gonna say petrified clamshells with quartz calcite on the inside in my video premiering tomorrow night.
Oh, sweet,
guys. Yeah.
I'll be watching that one then.
Hell yeah.
I've shared this one on the Washington episode of Anomalous America. Great Western Lake, Arizona, 1894. I'll just read this. County in Washington subjected to violent upheavals, volcanic or shrinking of the planet. Tropical garden, again, same thing. They called this the Garden of Edens. The Native Americans called this the Garden of Eden. Dismembered pyramids of basalt. A whole basalt pyramid had been crumbled and fallen, and the stone were scattered all over the ground. And an entire Indian tribe eaten alive by a giant reptile. Here's what it looked like. So I shared this. This is a lake that took up the majority of what is British Columbia and Washington State and Oregon as well. And this is when there was some kind of event, obviously, earthquake, volcanic, that pushed a large amount of this water east and caused a lot of, Noah deluge like events. And one of the first articles I read on my THC interview was covering crazy animals like we're mentioning now, all being shoved into a cave. Like, imagine a giant wave full of animals, and then they hit a mountain and everything gets shoved into this cave. And in this cave,
Damn.
this man found all kinds of crazy shit. Wolverines, hyenas, um, wolves that are 4 times as big as normal wolves. He found birds that had 50-foot wingspans, and he found man. So man was alive, as we've talked about a lot before, Longo. But for people that are kind of new to what I think, and at least some of our older conversations, I tend to side a lot with Edgar Casey when he talks about Atlantis, and that the Atlanteans weren't necessarily fighting wars with men, but they were fighting wars with giant animals, predominantly of the sea, right? Poseidon, and
Right.
yeah, huge monsters, 2, 3, 400 foot. And the largest geological record I've ever found was a 900-foot reptile they found in Mongolia, Godzilla esque. Anyways, back to the article real
Jesus.
quick. Since we're just talking about reptiles, I'll just skip ahead. An Indian legend of this remarkable lake makes it the home of a monstrous sea serpent. So when this lake got closed off or disconnected from the ocean, which happens a lot, these animals get stuck in them. Loch Ness. There's stories like this in many of these deep lakes. The remnants of the red tribes which used to frequent its shores tell their white neighbors that no Indian can venture into the water either for a bath or a pleasure trip in a canoe without being swallowed whole by the hideous reptile. And to this day, the Aborigines look upon Rock Lake with the same apprehension that an old-time Orthodox ponders over the terrors of purgatory. Their legend declares that an entire tribe was lashed to destruction and eaten not many centuries ago, all to satisfy the greed of this very monster. At another time, during the outbreaks quelled by Colonel Steptoe in 1858, a band of noble red men, in their efforts to escape the violence of Uncle Sam's bluecoats, tried to conceal themselves above the lake in a little paradise, but were overtaken by the great fish, and the legend of vows and sent to eternity. And they say, yeah, it doesn't really go too much farther from that, but yeah, giant reptile. And I have tons like this. So again, if you're new to my material, you can just search my Twitter here. You just type in my name here, right? Search my name, type
Oh
reptile,
yeah.
or type monster, or whatever you want to type, and make sure you can spell, unlike me. But yeah, I mean, here's my 120-foot dragon found in Utah. Here's the reptile in Colorado, 117 feet, several hundred pounds of bones removed. Another animal 10 feet long in its stomach, petrified nuts larger than a pint cup. Tropical climate.
You say petrified nuts.
Yeah. So since we talked about the Smithsonian, right? This is a perfect transition. The Smithsonian. This is an article from 1919. Okay. The Smithsonian offers a $5 million bounty for
Oh yeah.
huge reptile. 1919. That's a shitload of money in 1919, right?
Yeah.
Accompanied by Laddie, a German war dog whom he captured on the Western Front, Captain Lester Stevens will leave London on Christmas Eve for Central Africa and search for the Brontosaurus, a prehistoric monster, for possession of which, according to the Daily Mail, the Smithsonian Institution offers $5 million. Laddie will be employed to find and follow the trail of the monster. The Brontosaurus was seen in the Congo recently by the Belgian explorer Gapelli, Lepage, and others. Captain Stevens believes the reptile is hiding in the subterranean sea in Central Africa. He is taking with him a Mannlicher, a giant rifle, and a Winchester repeater, and a double-barreled shotgun and a .45 caliber revolver.
Damn.
Walter Cenas, famous hunter of big game, who has
Sounds like a Netflix movie.
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, these articles there have so many that could be movies easily, obviously, but yeah, this is, and I already have probably, 50 to 60 good articles pieced together, and I'll probably do, a little series on the Smithsonian and Mr. Smithsonian himself. And, he was just a trust fund baby who was obsessed with subterranean worlds. Like the inner earth was his real jam. And he was a relic hunter, it's kind of like Indiana Jones, and he just had really deep pockets. And then he got in bed with I'm spacing the name of the Royal Society um, of England, their exploratory society. But once he got in bed with them, they just pooled their money and they basically bought up everything. And in my Anomalous America Colorado episode, the governor of Colorado was pleading with the U.S. government because the Smithsonian was stealing all the mummies from Colorado and shipping them to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an article. He's like, the government has to help me. There are no laws against this. And he even says in the article, they're tearing down the buildings. They're stealing all of the relics. And he wasn't just talking about Colorado. He's talking about Arizona. But they collect, bones of saurians, and they just steal it all. So whoever they couldn't steal from, they just paid them off. And that 120-foot dragon in Utah, same thing. The guy who found it flat out said, he's like, well, the Smithsonian offered me more money than any of you. So,
Damn,
you know,
those motherfuckers.
yeah. And I think it was like, I can't remember what it was. It was a shitload of money. I think it was like $50,000 is what they offered him. And this is in 1894.
So,
but
wow.
yeah, so that just led me on a tangent there, but
that's a
yeah.
fucking good one, man. You ready for one?
Absolutely, yeah. Sharing all.
Okay, let's see if I can.
Hope everyone's doing well. Shitload of people watching as usual. I'm sure the majority are here for the Longo, but I'm just grateful to be a part of this, and I miss our talks as usual. And a great crowd on a Monday night is always fantastic, and I hope everyone's enjoying what they're hearing so far.
Yeah, according to my analytics, which I never look at.
This is I have this exact one.
Monday night is supposedly like my
dude, I was just talking to a follower about this exact article. This is on my Twitter.
About them milking the sloths.
Giant sloths, yeah.
Oh my god, this is
literally
hilarious.
today. How funny is that? Yeah,
that is pretty crazy.
I have this exact clipping on my Twitter. Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay, so guys, before we read this one, just so everyone knows, some people say, "Oh, I don't believe in dinosaurs." I don't believe in dinosaurs, right? I think we covered that a little bit already. Well,
it's just a misnomer, really. Right?
Yeah, it's a way to get people looking in the wrong direction, it's a way to get people to perceive the data, perceive the artifacts in a different light
and timelines, right?
Yes. So, however, you can slap on a bathing suit and a snorkel and go jump somewhere in Florida, anywhere, and pull out one of these things' bones. Seriously, anyone. Mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, those are large extinct mammals. Now that's not a matter of belief. We can go pull those out of the springs, out of the swamp, like I said. Now this giant sloth would be included in that category. So let's talk about this. Okay. Mm-hmm. Ex-Home magazine of the Austin American. The caveman's cow comes to New York. The giant ground sloth gave the primitive, prehistoric American caveman 20 times the milk of the choicest modern cow, furnished abundant meat, and enabled him to land an easy life in his rent-free dwelling. You can see that good, right?
Oh yeah,
on the stream.
Yeah.
Okay,
there's so many good ones about this because there were still tribes in South America that had a oral tradition of these animals,
Yes.
And talked about how they were actually pets, and that they had so many generations of these animals living alongside them that they didn't need pens or anything, that it was a mutual relationship. It's pretty amazing. Yeah,
they're
for
just
anybody, as a parent, you see all these funny movies, and there's a lot of actually really good ones out there that have a lot of really good truths in them. But the Crudes is just a funny one, and it has a lot of really hidden, not necessarily hidden, but obfuscated truths in that one. But yeah, keep going.
science shows how the Grippotherium, or ground sloth, gave 20 times the milk of the modern cow to the easygoing primitive Patagonian. The caveman's cow has come to New York. In the main hall of the Museum of National History, within 2 blocks of white lighted Broadway, the bossy of the Stone Age that supplied milk to Mr. and Mrs. Stone Hatchet and all the little Hatchets is comfortably established in a high, well lighted hall on a platform of mahogany. Blah 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 blah. Do you remember where the good bits are in this one? Any highlights?
Uh,
That's pretty much it.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's just kind of a rambling, but the fact that it's in America, that was the big thing. That's what led me to this because the majority of the stories are from South America, but this animal is found from Alaska to the tip of South America.
Yep. Right here, let's read this little bit down here. This is like a mound complex where they found the thing. Diagram of Consuelo Cove at Last Hope, Patagonia, where the prehistoric remains were found. But yeah, these things are all over Florida too.
Hmm.
This was in a Florida newspaper I got this out of, but it was probably circulated in a couple different newspapers.
And
But
this is going kind of backwards on what you touched on and how important it is to highlight these things is that a lot of the reptiles or dinosaurs were actually mammals. And there were
right,
plenty of scientists who were pointing this out, but they were silenced. The timeline thing, as we've discussed, is a really important part of this all, right? And stretching the dinosaur stretches the timeline narrative back, right? What is it, millions of years, which is just absolute nonsense. And you can just study enough of Florida perspective alone to see that there are a lot of problems in the timeline, and these skeletons obviously are a big part of that, right? And your videos about the mammoth are huge on that as well. And it kind of just correlates a lot that it brings all this stuff like right up into the 1700s, even 1800s, right? And your article there was what, 1906, right, with the serpent in Florida,
I think
the dragon.
1902. This
Yeah,
one's 1915. This one is.
yeah. So, but this is skeletons. It wasn't a living creature that they found.
No,
But the odds of
no,
them
yeah.
still being alive somewhere, I would say it's not. I mean, in this time frame, maybe not now, but in the late 1800s, early 1900s,
Oh, yeah.
um, because like Roosevelt, he traveled the world with these same Smithsonian people, and the barons and the dukes. Do you remember that giant saurian of Alaska that they were hunting? The
Yes.
the
The one
Duke of
that
West.
picked the one that picked up the animal with one hand,
Yeah, the caribou in
ran
its mouth.
off.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you had royalty traveling the world to hunt these things. Big game hunting was like for the rich, and that was like the
Yes.
exclusive thing to do. And
Yeah, it's like Conan the Barbarian shit going
oh
out.
yeah,